right, guys, making another car video here. This is actually, again, the third video I'm making for today. So some days I'm just on a roll, others I'm not. But that's the, oops, sorry about that. Probably edit that out. And talk. That's the benefit of not making slop anymore, as far as like reactionary and just feeling like I gotta make it now, right? I gotta, what they call it, like red meat as well, is that I feel like I can just make videos and they, you know, they either get views or they don't. I probably arguably would get more views if I made more slop, but it is what it is. But I still kind of cover current events. So this video is kind of multifaceted. I was gonna talk about GDP, which I probably still will, but that was gonna be like the whole topic of the video originally, but I've kind of shifted course because right now there's a lot of, you know, news talk about Trump's one big beautiful bill. We're gonna pass one big beautiful bill, folks. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be big. And it's gonna be a bill, and we're gonna pass it. And a lot of the things that's being talked about right now with that is, I just see a lot of boomers. This is the big criticism. Like, I'm not even for a lot of it because I know that it's gonna be like $5 trillion more in spending. The no tax on tips is kind of deceiving because you still have to pay FICA taxes. Look into that, by the way. I was doing some research on that last night, actually, because I was actually thinking about going and working like a restaurant job again. I was like, well, if they're not going to tax tips, but no, it's just it's like a weird thing. Like, you have to actually keep track of it, and then you have to like write them off, and nothing really changes with that, if I'm being completely honest. So there's all that. Then there's like the no overtime, but I've already talked to people. I haven't explained on this channel, so I'll give my bold prediction here. What they'll probably just do with that, with overtime, is more companies will just put people on salary. And I've already talked in past videos about how I think the traditional 9 to 5 is dead anyway. The traditional career path that the millennials were sold, similar to the Medicaid Social Security myth that the boomers were sold, right? Yeah, we're not going to see that in our lifetime. So millennials are probably not going to have traditional careers ever. Like, we're just going to have to accept that we can either start businesses like this, like if this becomes a business, right? Like, you start doing something like to generate cash flow outside of the 9 to 5, and then just kind of like working jobs as you can is pretty much the way I think it's going to go going forward. And yeah, so the whole overtime thing, the way companies will get around that, and the government, really, because people have said to me like, oh, but it doesn't benefit a company to not give overtime. But governments and the economy are in cahoots. Like, anyone that thinks we live in a free market needs to like wake up and pay attention. But all this is going to do is, and it is also, if like a Democrat gets in office, right, it always depends on who's in power. They'll just manipulate the law how they want it. And so, yeah, like the way that this will go down is it'll probably just, more jobs will become salary, which, if you guys have been in corporate America as long as I have, 15 plus years for me at this point between all my jobs, salary is a complete trap. Like, Gen X really knows this. Salary is basically, I can work you like a dog, but I only pay you this much a year, right? Like there's no chance for overtime, essentially. You get paid this, but we will put stipulations in your contract or yada 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 where we just like pay you what we want to pay you and call it good. And so, yeah, more companies will just have an incentive to do that, because another thing about salaries, again, like I said, it allows the company to get more labor out of you while essentially paying less. Because if you do the math, like I remember the first time I ever had an opportunity to be a salaried position was when I worked at Walmart. It was the first Walmart I ever worked at. They offered me a manager position. I was working the overnight crew, and they wanted me to be like a salaried shift lead or something like that. This was like way back in 07. I'm showing you my age here. It was like the first, I consider it the first real job I ever had, right? Because I was making good money for what it was. I mean, at that time, I think I was making $16 an hour. $16 an hour in 2007 was like fantastic. And if I was a little bit smarter, I would have, you know, saved some of that money. But, you know, that was when I was like peak of my youth, right out of high school. I spent all of it on music. I remember you know, another millennial trope, I would go to Hot Topic and buy all this band stuff. And anyway, I'm digressing again. I tend to do that on these videos. But yeah, the whole point was that I remember I did the math. I was making $16 an hour, which I don't have the calculator in front of me. I want to say like $16 an hour is like, it's like somewhere in the range of like 30 to 32,000 a year, something like that, right? But I remember I did the math, and it was like, I think I was gonna make like 34,000 a year if I took the manager role. So it was literally like, do double the work and you'll make an extra 2,000 a year. But again, when people see salary, they see that number. They're like, oh my gosh, this much. Like nowadays, it's more tempting. They'll be, oh, I'm making 100 grand a year. And so they just take it. But you're never gonna get overtime. That's the thing too. If you think about salary, a lot of people, they work overtime, but they're never gonna be entitled to it, and they do it all the time. So I've completely digressed. That was not what this video was supposed to be about, was just this, but this is part of the bill, right? Like, this is what I mean. Like, this bill is not, I don't think it's a good bill, right? Like, if Trump was serious, he would just repeal the income tax and call it good. It just tells me he's not that serious. He's talking about defense spending, right? We're gonna put more agents on the border, okay? I'm gonna finish my big beautiful wall. Like, all these things, they theoretically need to be done, but the problem is that they're probably not going to be done, because that's another thing with bills. They get passed and then it takes like years for them to kick in. You know, if Trump's not thinking about this seriously, like I've talked in like, this stuff might not even kick in until there's like a Democrat in office, and then they can just repeal it, and you know, nothing ever happens, as I spoke about. But to get to the main point, the main 2 points, I kind of addressed the first one, I guess, in a little way, that it's going to be about GDP, and how I think GDP is like a complete LARP. It doesn't matter. I've been seeing a lot of feminists talk about this. There's this, I've talked about her in previous videos. There's this new chick on the scene called Not So Erudite, and she's like really dumb. I don't even like talking about her, but she's of the Destiny Vaush breadtube sphere of the internet, so she's worth mentioning because she's all over the place now. But her literal main argument all the time is, we need feminism because of GDP. And GDP is useless, guys. Like Germany, if you look up, I think it's 1931 to 1939, Germany's GDP went up 55%. We all know why. At least, like I said, you guys are a smart audience. I trust that you know what's going on, right? We all know why. Weimar conditions, right? So GDP doesn't mean anything if your money is a fraud, if your money is a scam and it's going up in value, it's going up in number but not in value. It's actually losing value. So yeah, GDP doesn't matter. In fact, like the feminists that make this argument, they're kind of like making the argument against focusing on GDP. And anyway, that one, like, I was gonna make a whole video on GDP, but I was like, it's such a stupid argument. I don't know if I could. So I was gonna tie it into this because the boomers care about GDP as well. And I just say normies in general. Anyone that believes in like the 401k, Medicaid, Social Security structure apparatus at this point, to me, they're still a normie. And you know, some people are just too old to ever get out of it. Mostly the boomers and the Gen Xers at this point. The ones that didn't wake up to this won't likely wake up to this at this point. But you know, the like middle millennials, younger Gen X, younger millennials, like we still have a chance, right? Gen Z certainly has a chance to get out of this. So one of the reasons why I started making these videos is because, you know, I'm getting older and I'm like, you know, I might as well pass on some kind of wisdom. You know, these are my own personal opinions on things, but you know, hopefully it resonates with other people. But yeah, the GDP thing is kind of a LARP, but to tie it into this bill, right? So the big criticism that I'm seeing online from a lot of the older people, like it literally is boomers in this case, because I've been making sure to like check their profiles and look at who's commenting, and they're all just like people that are, you know, 55 plus, you know, 60 plus. All they're complaining about is Social Security. They're like, oh, he's going to cut Social Security. He's going to cut Medicaid. And it's like, first of all, pressing X for doubt. I don't think he's really going to cut Medicaid. He'll probably just cut it on paper, but it'll just be like funneled through some other avenue. Because again, that's what the government does. They just set up slush funds. I'm not saying Trump himself will do this, but Trump has come out and said several times that he supports Medicaid, which, again, if you're not awake to this yet, all of this is a Ponzi scheme. We would be just better off having not paid any taxes into these safety nets and just learn how to invest. Just learn sound financial advice in your own life. Get out of debt. Big one with millennials is stop going to college. Just stop doing it, especially millennials. It's like we're damn near in our 40s. If you're still going to college at this point, like, you're just wasting your money and your life. You're never going to retire. There's like no chance for you to retire at this point, unless you're, but again, you're in your 40s. Like, you're not going to be top of the crop at this point, even if you go to college with like high honors. That time is past. So the way out of this is why I've always said Trump should just come out and say it. He should just come out and say, guys, the jig is up. The jig is up. I've looked at the numbers, guys. It's too much to bear. The economy can't take another shot like this. So I'm ending it now, guys. I'm ending it all. We're canceling usury. We're canceling the Fed. You're going to have to figure it out, folks. See, that's what he should be doing. But he's not going to do that, because that's not this whole democracy cycle that we live in, right? Again, this ties into the GDP and all that. This whole thing is a fraud. It's all made up. It's all, you know, future. Look into futures investing if you've never looked into that, but that's like literally what it is. What it sounds like is like you're investing in the future. So you're like predicting the future, but then what that does is that incentivizes people. It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like a big one I always use is climate change. It's like, because you predict that the future is going to be so shitty, if we don't put our entire economy behind this climate change momentum, then, like, you know, it forces everyone to think like that, right? Like, you can literally brain control people to think the way you want, invest the way you want, if they're, you know, not paying attention, which a lot of people do. They just put money in a 401k, in Social Security, and they just like assume that that's going to take care of it. And that's what this is. That's what, to tie back to the bill, that's what all this outrage is that I'm seeing. I don't even really know, like, what other than that people have a problem with. Like, I've given you my problems for 10 minutes, right? It's going to increase spending, which means more inflation. You know, as millennials too, as jobs continue to become more and more scarce, they just want to keep printing more and more money. So, like, it's not going to get better on that front. So what use are safety nets if you can't even work, right? Like, why would I want Medicaid if I can't afford to eat? Like, do people even think about this? Oh, there's food banks. It's like, no, we found out with USAID, they give it all to minorities and illegals. They don't give a crap about normal, productive people. The point I'm trying to get across here, guys, again, I have to say it now because legal reasons, not financial advice. But the point I'm trying to make is that you have to be thinking about yourself. Nobody's going to care about you other than you. Or if you're married, right? If you're lucky enough to have a family, a spouse, children, that's what you look out for. Nobody's going to care about you other than that realm, right? On a societal level, right? If you have the church, you know, that can also, but even me, like I grew up in a very Mormon community, and you know, a big teaching of Mormons, if you guys don't know, is they really do teach the doomsday prepping, like pretty hardcore. But you know, a lot of these people, you know, I'm not talking ill against them. That, like, if things went down, you know, they probably only have enough to take care of themselves. That's just the way it is. This socialist idea, right? Like, I've argued for distributism, which is a socialist idea, but it's more from like a Christian Catholic perspective. But I'm also realistic. Like, we're not in that point. That's something you'd have to work for, and that takes generations. You have to change mindsets, really. We'd have to enter some kind of neo-feudalism for that to happen, which we might be entering Blade Runner. The point I'm making is, like, you need to just learn about this monetary system, and it is a scam. Like, just a good start, I always tell people, go read about Bernie Madoff, because Bernie Madoff is a microcosm of what's going on. You know, ask yourself the question, why won't they release the Epstein files, right? It's because it would indict everything. It would expose the fraud. This is what, if you guys are watching this, I'm assuming that you're already on this level. But, you know, there's going to be newer people that might watch my videos, especially younger people. You know, like you, as far as college goes, like, again, with millennials, stop. But, like, if you're younger, like, really only go to college if you absolutely have to. I've seen too many people in my age bracket and older. They go to college for 4 or 5 years. I went to college for 3 years to get an associate's degree. It was an absolute waste of time. The only reason it took me 3 years is because I spent 1 year, like, basically partying. I didn't, like, get drunk or anything, but I just kind of, like, I lived the college experience, you know? That's what they told millennials. But I've seen so many people in my my age range that they have, like, degrees in ancestry, or, you know, like, political science. I see that one. On communications, that was a big one. I knew a girl. I actually went on a date with her. I just remembered this now. This was like 7 years ago, forever ago. But I remember there was this girl that I saw her in the office, and I thought she was cute. This was like before Me Too, so it might have even been before that. Dang, I'm getting old. This was probably more in like 2013, actually. But I remember I went on a date with her, and the reason I know why it's before Me Too is because girls just, like, stopped talking to most of us after that. That had, like, huge consequences. That could be like a whole video in and of itself. But I remember I went on this date with this girl, and I asked her what she was majoring in, and she said animal psychology. I still will never forget that, because this was like before I knew about woke. This is like, I was still a normie. Effectively in 2013, I was just a normie. I was just going to college, you know, I was just following the plan. Somebody told me about Bitcoin in 2013, and I called it, oh, that's Mario money, right? Like, this was the level I was on. I was retarded, to be quite honest. You know, we all have that phase in life. But I just remember, even then, when she said that to me, like, an alarm bell went off in my head. I was like, animal psychology? Like, what the hell are you gonna learn from an animal? Right? And I still haven't made this video, but it's coming, the psychoanalysis video. I've always thought therapy was kind of, it's probably because of my Christian, you know, understanding upbringing. I've always thought therapy was kind of a fraud, because, like, if ever I had issues, I would just go talk to in the Mormon church, they call it your bishop, and, you know, like, your church father, your spiritual leader, whatever church you're in. That was how I thought about it. I was also in Boy Scouts, so I knew a lot of the counselors. That was always my go-to. And you know, the propaganda, by the way, of, like, all Christian Boy Scout leaders are, like, PDF files. Complete lie. That was just so that they could destroy the institutions. We now know that, right? They actually literally destroyed the Boy Scouts. When they integrated women in, it just canceled itself out. So we already know that truth now. But I hope the point of the video is getting across here is that, you know, GDP, I might call this video like the fraud of the financial system is a fraud, or something like that. When I was first thinking of this video, I was like, I'm gonna make it all about GDP. And then I was thinking about the bill. I was like, oh, I'm gonna make it all about Medicaid. And I don't know, when I think of these financial things, I just am like, but it's all just a scam. You just have to, like, be above it. As like, haughty and possibly arrogant as that sounds, you have to figure out a way to lower your cost of living as much as possible. And again, this is not financial advice because I have to say it for legal reasons. So don't ding me, YouTube. You have to find a way to lower your cost of living at all costs. Like you really don't need a $50,000 car. Hell, you don't even need a $600,000 house. I'm even learning this now. You can get a decent house for like $300,000. $250,000 to $300,000 if you're willing to move. That's the key. I'm in Utah. The house prices here pretty much suck, but not all of Utah. Like if I moved into the boonies, right? There's always that. There's always the backwoods where you can move in any state, and you look into that. Like it was eye-opening. I just started looking at Zillow like a couple minutes a night in the beginning, and now I just check it every now and then just to kind of like, it's like an exercise. Like, let's see if I can find a house in this country that's, you know, below 100,000. And then you actually find that house, and then you look at the photos and you're like, yeah, you'd have to fix it up, but it's like you think of the possibilities. You're like, I could have a renovated house for like 150 grand. So this is what I mean. This is how you have to think. And again, for all the millennials that are in student loan debt, like I'm like heavy student loan debt, I'm sorry. You guys got lied to. You got the COVID thing didn't help. You know, they put you on forbearance for like 5 years, right? I benefited from that myself, but my student loans are really low. In fact, this job that I'm about to start, I'll have my student loans paid off for sure by the end of this year. No problem. I just, they were given the forbearance. I have like no interest rate. I haven't accrued interest on my student loans in like a decade. So I just took it, whatever. I thought for sure the way the country's going, I was like, Biden's gonna forgive these. Like the country was heading in that direction. I'm honestly shocked to even think that Trump is actually the president again. Like it does shock me sometimes, even though it was painfully obvious that, they rigged it and blah, blah, blah. It is very weird that, they actually didn't win, right? It really felt like Kamala Harris was going to be the president. Kamala Kazi, as I called her. But yeah, I kind of went all over the place with this one. But yeah, that's kind of the takeaway of what you got to think about your financial future. Like there are no gimmies, right? And it's especially trusting it to the government. Like just learn about how money works, learn about investment, learn about Bitcoin. I always say that. Learn about real estate. Learn about these things about it. And then I've even said, if you're young too, like if you're young and you're like dating a girl and she's like good, do not fall into the millennial mistake that we all fell into. Like millennials, I could be projecting here, but like I still see it with people that are even just like 3 years younger or 3 years older than me. Like millennials really had this idea that like the best is yet to come, if that makes sense. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because like when it comes to dating, I used to approach it like that. Like, oh, if I don't end up with this girl, I'll just find another one. And now I'm 37 and I'm still single, and there were legitimately girls that I could have married. I just have to like realize that. Now, I'm not saying they would have lasted because I didn't know about the red pill back then. I didn't know about divorce courts. I'm not saying the marriages would have lasted, but like the opportunities, at least I can count at least 3 that those women could have been my wife, and I could have children right now. And so like if you're dating a girl and you're young and you've kind of got your stuff together, just marry her, man. Like don't even wait. Just get married, start the family now. That is honestly the most important thing you're ever going to do, as far as your own personal well-being, other than, in my opinion, going to God as well. But if you can establish a family young when you have the energy, it's the best thing, man. It's the best thing. And especially if the best part about getting a girl young too, like if you're young, like I have a cousin that did this. So she was 19 and her husband was 21. So that's kind of the example I'm using. If you're like that age range, like that's a perfect age range, because she's so young that there's really a very low chance that she has any kind of sexual history at that point, right? And so that in and of itself is going to help you immensely with keeping a marriage together. Just the fact that that's a thing. Again, I digress. That doesn't even have to do with GDP or whatever, but I might have to like fumble my way through titling this video now. But it does tie in economically, like, right? This is economics. The study of economics really should just be about understanding like what the hell is going on and then acting accordingly, right? And when I say that, I mean like understanding what is going on. Like, don't just read a book about the stock market and be like, oh, I understand now. I'm going to put all my money in this right. I'm going to put all my money in this index fund. It's better to just think about your own life situation. Look at what you actually need to pay for, right? Calculate in your mind, like, what do I think I need versus what I actually need? Because again, college is the killer. I'm learning that is the number one killer of people's financial futures is college. So if you're considering college, you need to really consider it and really look down the tunnel of time and see if that's worth it. So anyway, that's the video. We went all over the place, guys. We talked about GDP. We talked about the big beautiful bill. We talked about women, as always. But the bottom line is the economic message, which I already laid out. So I didn't even say it in the video. If you guys enjoy this content, especially if you got all the way to the end, you guys are awesome. I appreciate the support. Be sure, if you're new, to subscribe to the channel and like the video, as it will help my channel hopefully grow in the future and I can get more of a community going here on YouTube. But yeah, with that said, guys, I will talk to you on the next one.